and something else, yeah.
Right. Well, welcome to this event on how to get from tinnitus to silence. I'm really delighted to be sitting alongside these guys who've come along tonight to share their stories on what they went through, the struggle they had, and how they got much better. Because one of the things that we know about tinnitus is that what you really believe about tinnitus has a massive impact on your symptoms. And what people tell you about tinnitus has a huge impact too. So if you go and see a doctor and they say, oh, you've got tinnitus, there's nothing you can do about it, learn to live with this, that can have really devastating consequences. Whereas if you learn from people who've got better and you're inspired by their stories on what helped them switch off and find silence again, it's hugely more positive and the outcome's much, much better. So what my aim is to put a message out into the tinnitus community to try and change some of the core beliefs that are put out there into the tinnitus community. Every day there are thousands of health practitioners dropping bombshells, to be honest, about tinnitus, which is not very helpful for people. So I really want this to be a positive message for the tinnitus community on what helps people get better. So what we're going to do tonight is we're each going to tell our story. I'll start off by telling my story, and then I'll give a bit of a talk on tinnitus, what helps get better. And then we'll move over to the speakers here, and they'll each share their story with you. And I hope you can be inspired by what helps them. And I'd like to ask you to keep your questions until the end. Once we've all spoken, then we can have a question and answer session, and hopefully you can learn a lot more about what helps this condition. And then after the question and answering session, we can just mingle and you can talk on a one-to-one basis with everybody, find out a bit more, and then we should be able to wind up around 9 o'clock this evening. So, and before we start, I want to say a huge thank you to Finn and Wiser, the team that work in this great office, for providing this space and for being a really cool team that helps set the show on the road.
You're welcome.
Just take a quick sip. So, I'm a cranial sacral therapist, and I've been working for 19 years now doing this work. I'm also a tinnitus consultant and a psychotherapist. And I do Skype sessions with people all over the world. And one of the things that really helps people is speaking to somebody who had it and who's got better. And I find myself constantly reassuring people every day that this is a condition that's temporary and you can make a good recovery. My story started when I was 16. I was at school and I heard this appear out of nowhere, and I thought it was coming out of the tannoy system, and I walked around, it wasn't there. I went to the kitchen, I thought it was coming out of a gas tap, escaping gas sound, and I kind of wandered around in a bit of a daze, slightly irritated by this thing, and just carried on with the work and school life. About 2 weeks later, eventually it dawned on me that the sound was coming from inside my head. And I remember thinking, oh my God, something's broken, something wrong with my ears. And I went to the school doctor and he said, look, this is just one of those things that will probably go away. Don't worry about it. And this was by far the best piece of information I ever had. It didn't go away. I had a lot of family stress at the time, and I had lots of ear infections, and basically after 10 years of tinnitus it started getting quite a lot worse. After 15 years I had quite a stressful job. I started going through screeching cats, hissing kettles, I had ticking clocks, I had chirping crickets. And I had one really stressful job where I was actually working as a wine guide in a wine tour company. And I was standing there with this deafening in my ears. And there was this Burgundian winemaker saying, "Oh, le cépage de Chardonnay prend son essor ici." And I was supposed to be interpreting this into English, and all I could hear was and it was really hard. And eventually I lost my job. And one of the reasons why I lost my job was because urgent messages were coming through and I wasn't picking them up. I was a tour manager, so I had all these people going to champagne tastings or Burgundy walks, getting lost because I hadn't picked up vital information. And the answer machine kept on flashing. And I thought, what's going on? What is broken? And then I suddenly realised that I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear the phone ring. And it was so deafening that that's really why I lost my job. So I basically, at the age of 33, went to live at my mother's house, had to start from scratch, and had a really, really difficult time. And I'd get up at 3 in the morning, I couldn't sleep, I'd go for walks around the village in the rain, thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do about this? And eventually I went to see an ENT specialist. I waited months. I was really desperate. And I went to see this guy in Guildford, and he said, "Oh, you're moderately to severely deaf. You need a hearing aid. Good luck." And I said, "But what about the tinnitus?" "Oh yeah, you've got tinnitus. Oh, there's nothing you can do about it. Learn to live with it." "Is that it?" And he looked at me and said, "Yeah. Can't you help my tinnitus?" I said, "No. Good luck with everything. Bye." And I walked out of there, and I went and sat in my car, and I felt completely squashed, and it was like being pushed off a cliff, and I dropped into a deep state of despair and depression. The worst 2 months of my life. And fortunately, thank God, a friend came round to visit me and said, "Look, why don't you," a friend of my mother's actually, said, "Why don't you try craniosacral therapy?" I said, "What the hell's that?" Just go, it's brilliant." So I jumped in the car, went to see this guy called Peter, who probably saved my life actually, in Hazelmere. Thank you, Peter. And I lay on the couch, he put his hands around my head, and I felt this sort of strange sensation inside, like something was moving. And then he was working at the base of my spine, and suddenly my back just went, and I felt all this pressure I didn't know was there, release. And then he put his hand, I remember exactly where it was, here and here, and it was like he was twisting this, twiddling the knob on the transistor radio, and my tinnitus. I'd had this for 20 years at that time, and I really had been in a terrible state. He was twiddling it like a radio, and I grabbed onto the couch, and what the hell are you doing? How can you do that? And the tinnitus came down, and I was just absolutely gobsmacked. And I got off the couch, I remember feeling really heavy. And it was like taking drugs. And I got into the car, and I drove home. I had to go at 20 miles an hour because I was so sluggish. And eventually got back to my mother's house. And my tinnitus was changing. And I was just completely beside myself. Anyway, I went back to see Peter again. I had 6 or 7 sessions with him. And my relaxation level, I'd never relaxed before my cranial session. My tinnitus started coming down. I was at a crossroads in my life, and I thought, wow, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do the next cranial sacral therapy training. And I went along, and I had a very positive experience at this taster weekend, and then I took it up as a profession. I learned to be a practitioner, and us students, we all work on each other like guinea pigs, and so we receive a lot of cranial work. And 6 months later, I woke up in silence. It was a steady up and down. I had a cranial session, would come up and then settle, up, down. 6 months later, I woke up in the summer morning, no noise. I remember hearing the wood pigeon, do, 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 do. There was no noise, do, 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 do. It was really a life-changing moment, and I thought, yes! And I got up and I ran down to the bottom of the garden. It was a beautiful summer's morning, and I just thought, right, I knew it. There is something you can do about this. What I was told was utter nonsense, and being pushed off a cliff was really unhelpful with that negative message. I thought, if I can do it, other people can do it. And so I immediately set up as a student, practitioner. I had a full practice. I've been busy ever since. And I've worked for the last 19 years helping ease people down with cranial work. And it's been a complete life-changing experience for me. What helped my tinnitus back off, the reason cranial work helped me so much was before I was up and out. I was in my thoughts, I was locked into catastrophic thinking. Oh my God, what if I have to live with this for the rest of my life? This is something that most tinnitus feel all the time. It's very stressful thinking you're trapped with something. And if somebody could only have told me then that actually you just need to calm your nervous system down, you need to come out of fight or flight and really settle, it would have helped me so much. So I learned quite a lot working with tinnitus people, and I started to understand that the fight or flight response is central to tinnitus. So when we're calm and relaxed, we're in our body, we feel comfortable. But if we're stressed out, all our attention goes up and out. Because if there's a lion out there, our heart starts beating, our senses go bananas, and our ears turn into gigantic radar-like sensors, listening out for danger. So eventually, you end up hearing the buzz of your nervous system. Tinnitus is being too alert, too switched on, and you hear the buzz. Even if you have noise-induced tinnitus, you go to a rave, or you have a car crash, or you shoot a gun, or you have a growth on your acoustic nerve, the tinnitus can still switch off. You know, it's really important to understand this. If you go from up and out, and you start to settle, come back in and down, pointing to the body, when you start to relax, and you start to really reconnect with the body, your alarm bells stop ringing. This is literally true. A lot of people are like me, that they grow up with quite difficult family dynamics, and they're walking on eggshells, they're a little bit wary of pissing people off or making somebody angry, and you become a bit of a sensitive, reactive person. So sometimes you can get really strong dynamics that are just in your makeup, and they make you far too much of a people pleaser, your attention goes out, you're alert all the time. And so getting help to switch off and settle is fantastically helpful. So the cranial work has helped me feel peaceful and relaxed for the first time ever when I was 33. I've never relaxed before I had cranial work. And Peter, I don't think, knows how much he changed my life. But since then, I've been working a lot with people, helping them get better with tinnitus. One of the most important things to realize is that the nervous system really responds to our core beliefs. Something I've only learned recently is that in the brainstem, right down in the primitive part of the central nervous system, we've got this thing called the reticular activating system. This part of our nervous system switches us on and switches us off. The whole nervous system is aroused in the daytime and then calmed down at night. Most tinnitus people are aroused all the time, and they're too alert. And we have very specific parts of the nervous system that switch off the auditory arousal. This is the most important piece of information. When you feel safe, calm, and relaxed, when you're back on top of things, your nervous system will start filtering out the background buzz. It is a happy, calm, relaxed auditory system ignores the buzz inside the body. It ignores the buzz in the environment around you. So that when you're in a calm state of relaxation, you can have a baby crying next to you on the train and it doesn't matter. You can live next to a train station. After a few months, you stop hearing the trains. We are designed not to hear our yawns or the buzz inside the nervous system. We only hear the buzz inside because we are activated, we are alerted, we are afraid or overwhelmed. And so, really interestingly, the people that get tinnitus, the 2% of the world population that get tinnitus, are usually people who are very sensitive, very alert, they're overwhelmed, they're depressed, or they go through some major crisis, they go through too much change at once, and the system gets overloaded, and the nervous system starts hearing the buzz of its own state. This is a changeable beast. It is not permanent. If you have tinnitus, if you've still got it, it's about settling, switching off, feeling safe, getting the mind not to look into the sound, to distract it elsewhere, and to get your nervous system to switch off and settle. It's very, very important to understand this. So 22% of the world population get tinnitus. Did you know that? That's 1 in 5 people, but only 2% develop it into a condition. And it's because there's some reactivity or some crisis that happens that makes us hear far too much, like a doorbell, for example. So with a calm, relaxed system, we can just ignore that, so it's fine. There's been interesting research done by Joseph Rauschecker in the States, who has taken functional MRI scans of people with tinnitus. So basically, they look at the nervous system and see which bits are lit up. And tinnitus people have a very overactive nucleus accumbens. Now this bit is a part of the nervous system that rewards life-affirming behaviors with pleasure, so love-making, bonding, having meals with friends, safe situations, the alarm bell stops ringing. But if you're alone or isolated, threatened or fearful or going through a major crisis, the nucleus accumbens punishes us with stress-related symptoms, low mood, and the alarm bells start ringing. So it's definitely a stress-related condition, and it's definitely a changeable condition. And my message is the best thing that we can do is to get somebody to help the nervous system switch off and relax. So craniosacral therapy definitely helped me switch off and relax. And to get a support network around that helps you not have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, to learn to self-soothe. I've worked with 800 people plus with tinnitus, and one of the things that tinnitus people don't do is self-soothe, and they don't do body stuff, and I'm constantly pushing people into, well, try yoga, try Tai Chi, find things that really settle you. Did you know that when you yawn, you actually get blood flowing into your middle ear, you get cerebral spinal fluid going into your middle ear, you release tension into your jaw, your eustachian tubes pop, and you can yawn until your eyes water up. That actually drops your stress levels. So when your tinnitus comes down low enough, you can switch it off by yawning. On the way down, we need different things. And it's always about getting help and support to settle. There are things, so once you've had your ears checked, if you've just developed tinnitus, good to have everything checked out, and once the tests are all clear, then the path is learning to take your focus off your ringing and to settle into the body. So doing slow walking meditation, or doing yoga, doing Tai Chi, relaxing the body, getting in touch with the body, helps the head switch off. Body experiences that are safe, calm and relaxing get this thing up here to calm down. The body's your best friend. I'm forever getting people to learn to self-soothe and take up yoga, Tai Chi, self-massage, have facials. If you can relax your face and jaw, they are directly linked to the facial nerve and the trigeminal nerve, to the little auditory ossicles. So people who hear ticking, those are the little auditory bones wiggling around because your nervous system is too activated. And so relaxing the face and the jaw is actually incredibly helpful. Most tinnitus people are tight around this whole area. So please get somebody to work with you in a very hands-on way. There's a host of body therapists out there who are professionally trained to help you switch off and settle. And the tinnitus starts backing off more and more. We need to learn to reverse out of the head, back down into the body, into the way out of tinnitus is this way, into the body. And this, another thing that I have to say is that auditory violence, listening to stressful arguments or hearing negative things that we don't want to hear, really affects the nervous system. I have clients who come for cranial sessions, it switches off in the session and they go home to a terrifying wife or a nagging husband or some situation there. It's very stressing for the auditory system. People never think about this. The stress comes in through here and the body reacts. So there are lots of things we can do about this. And finally, salt and sugar. Salt actually gets the cochlea to become inflamed. It creates too much lymph inside one of the chambers of the cochlea, and it upsets the sodium-potassium balance in the way we hear. So too much salt is one of the few things that brings my tinnitus back. Sugar, highly addictive hormone that gets adrenaline going. Sugar's really not helpful. Coffee and alcohol, a few coffees and your beer and wine can be fine, but if you're drinking 10 cups of coffee or tons of alcohol, it's very likely to overstimulate the system and put you into that red alert state. And the biggest bugbear of all is negative messages. Stay away from negative messages. If a practitioner says, there's nothing you can do about it, you're going to have this for the rest of your life, say goodbye, because they're just saying very clearly they cannot help you and they don't understand how it works. You would not believe the stories I hear every day, bombshells that health practitioners drop onto tinnitus people. Just leave and stay off the internet, stay away from negative, fearful groups of people moaning and groaning and freaking out, and put your focus into calming, settling and relaxing the nervous system. This definitely helps. It takes time sometimes, but getting into a good practice and settling, your alarm bells stop ringing and your hearing can really pipe down. So that's my message. I would like to hand over to the next person now.